team, are you ready?
Yes.
Partner, are you ready? Jeff, are you ready? All right. We'll need 3 pieces of flow paper for the 1AC. Observation 1 is inherency, subpoint A. Currently, generative AI steals copyright protected works without the consent of its creator, denying the livelihood of the creator. Copy in 24. GAI developers crawl websites and reach behind paywalls to train their models. GAI output results to user inquiries, contain summaries, excerpts, and even full copies of articles written and fact-checked by human journalists. These outputs compete in that same market with the same audience, serving the same purpose as the original articles that feed into the algorithms in the first place. Revenue is diverted from those who create the original work, protecting creators from unauthorized use of their works, for training GI will help provide better products and services for consumers. Copyright protected expressive works have been taken without authorization and without consent, and used repeatedly in model training, processing, and display. This should not be considered fair use under copyright law. Thus, my partner and I present the following plan. The United States federal government should create licensing requirements for the use of copyrighted material for training and output of commercial generative artificial intelligence. Plan Blank 1. Funding will be through normal means. Plan Blank 2. Enforcement will be through the U.S. Department of Justice, U.S. Copyright Office, and the federal court systems. Plan Blank 3. The affirmative team pledges the right to fiat, legislative intent, and clarification. Moving on to solvency, subpoint A. The plan increases AI value, sustainability, and efficiency while ensuring that creators and right holders are paid. AAP in 23. A licensing requirement would have a positive economic impact on the development and adoption of generative AI systems. The ability of copyright owners to decide what they will authorize the use of their works for is fundamental to their ability to achieve copyright's purpose. Licensing fees are an important source of income for U.S. creators and right holders and support the continued investment in new human created works. The importance of sustaining U.S. publishing industry cannot be understated. Trustworthy generative AI system requires high-quality new publications, and the flourishing publishing industry is best positioned to increase the value of Gen AI systems. A flourishing publishing industry will also help protect against some of the potential ills of Gen AI systems, including misinformation and bias. Systems developed or trained on works derived from authorized sources are more likely to yield reliable output. It is essential to trustworthy and reliable AI that developers utilize high-quality content, given that AI technologies will be integrated into applications that will impact the lives and well-being of individuals. It is critically important that licensing requirements be implemented to ensure that high-quality, peer-reviewed, vetted material is used to create the training corpora of AI systems and to refresh that training corpora going forward. Moving on to our first advantage, which is journalism, subpoint A. Journalism is declining because of a perfect storm created by the unlicensed use of copyrighted material by generative AI companies that undermines the lifeblood of U.S. democracy. What's been on 24? Local reporting is the lifeblood of our democracy. Local reporting by newspapers and broadcast stations are in an existential crisis. It is a perfect storm, the result of increasing costs, declining revenue, and exploding disinformation. The cause of this perfect storm is artificial intelligence. It is eating away at the lifeblood of our democracy. National news. You can buy it by the yard or by the word, but local reporting is truly the sweat and tears and sometimes even the blood of local reporters. What we are seeing is that local papers are closing at a staggering rate. A third of our newspapers have been lost in the last 2 decades. Millions of Americans now live in a news desert where there's no local paper, and that's especially true for rural communities and populations in communities of color. The rise of big tech has been directly responsible for the decline in local news. Meta, Google, and OpenAI are using the hard work of newspapers and authors to train their AI models without compensation or credit. Those models are then used to compete with newspapers and broadcast, cannibalizing readership and revenue from journalistic institutions that generate the content in the first place. Subpoint B. This unlicensed use of copyrighted content enables mass misinformation campaigns and undermines trust in all news content. Lynch in 24. Generative AI tools have been built with stolen goods. Gen AI companies copy and display content without permission or compensation. Such use violates copyright law and threatens the continued protection of high-quality media content. These companies argue that their machines are just learning from reading our content just as humans learn and that no licenses are required for that. Just as copyright law does not permit a human to replicate and regurgitate copyrighted material for purposes of commercial gain without a license, and does not allow Gen AI companies to do so either. Gen AI technology enables misinformation/disinformation on an unprecedented scale. Gen AI can generate outputs that are customized for individuals, making misinformation in all forms look real. Publications damaging our brands. Americans can't spend all of their time determining what's true and what's false. They're far more likely to stop trusting any source of information, which would have devastating consequences for our already polarized society. There's a path forward: licensed and compensated use of publisher content for both training and output. This will ensure a sustainable and competitive ecosystem. Without licensed use, the ecosystem will collapse, and Gen AI-powered search will have nothing to search for beyond poor quality content and misinformation. Congress should eliminate any doubt that licenses are required. Subpoint C. Without licensing, AI erodes trust in information, causing newspaper closure and leads to mass job loss of journalists. That kills our democracy. Copy and Smith in 23. Without a requirement for AI developers to seek permission for uses of protected content, AI can lead to the undermining of democracy through closure of newspapers, magazines, and digital outlets, especially local ones. The spread of mis and disinformation and reduced access to reporting. An engaged and informed citizenry depends on the existence and availability of reliable and accurate reporting by outlets of public trust. AI systems make up facts and disclaim liability for doing so. In a world flooded by easily accessible synthetic information, real information becomes harder to identify and trust. In addition to these significant societal harms, the negative effects of unsustainable AI development practices on publishers can lead to substantial job losses and a devaluing of journalistic content. Unregulated generative AI risks driving existing publishers out of business and disincentivizing continued investments in new original content. This result would undermine the goal and purpose of the copyright clause of the Constitution and diminish the essential role of the press envisioned by the founders. And subpoint D, copyright protections are key. It's the only way to ensure that revenue goes through creators of content, NMA in 23. The modes of distribution and consumption of publisher contents are rapidly changing. The systematic copying of content to fuel GAI poses an existential threat to publishers and is not fair use. By diverting readers and digital advertising dollars to follow them away from the original sources, and by interfering with the potential source of licensing revenue, GAI models disincentivize investment. An online world that is dominated by GAI-generated substitutional content is poised to leave the public with watered-down, less reliable outputs and fewer news outlets with the resources necessary to provide critical original reporting. Copyright law should not allow for democracy to be imperial. GAI is now further threatening the ability of journalists and publishers to perform that essential function of democracy. At a time when governments and experts around the world warn at risk, AI poses it to a democratic functioning. It is critical that the copyright laws continue to protect publisher content to help safeguard the indispensable role of a flourishing and free press. I am now open for cross-examination and further points of clarification. Jason, Tyler, would you like to see okay. Perfect. Just let me know what you guys
Is everybody ready for cross-examination? Okay, so first, you claim that implementing licensing will solve the current issues in the status quo, correct?
Yes, we are claiming that our plan will solve for problems in the status quo, especially those that have arisen with the usage of AI learning from copyrighted journalism.
Alright, so can you point to the authors who specifically verified this solvency?
The solvency advocate in the 1AC is the Association of American Publishers, but there are more solvency cards in our back files from individual authors.
Okay, so how does your plan increase AI value like your solvency claims?
Okay, so essentially, without the ability to use biased or uneducated words to teach AI, it can become more accurate, in turn making it more valuable, which can help a plethora of problems that rise with AI in the status quo.
Okay, and where in your card does it say that?
In our solvency card in the 1AC AAP in 23, specifically says a flourishing publishing industry will also help protect against some of the potential ills of Gen AI systems, including misinformation and bias.
Okay, and thank you. How does your plan increase sustainability?
As mentioned above, an issue with current AI sustainability are the drawbacks that come with current generative AI. With the Affirmative plan, it can replace these ills with fact-check journalism to educate AI while benefiting the writers as well.
Alright. And where does your evidence state that?
The text says sustainability will increase, and evidence inside does support that.
Okay, sorry, thank you, but can you show me exactly where in your evidence it says that?
It never says sustainability exactly, but if you look up the definition of AI sustainability, you can find pieces of evidence in our AAP 23 card that show that it does solve this issue. One of the many examples is that same line I read aloud earlier. A flourishing publishing industry will also help protect against some of the potential ills of Gen AI systems, including misinformation and bias.
Okay, so the Gen AI does not increase sustainability, correct?
It does, but
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you. You claim that licensing of AI is an urgent issue, correct?
yes.
Okay, if the problem is so urgent, then why haven't lawmakers already passed legislation that would solve the problem?
Currently, there are bigger issues that legislation is focusing on, and this is an overlooked issue, especially in regards to journalism, which is what our affirmative case is defending.
Okay, perfect. And are there any examples in your evidence of times when AI has regurgitated copyright materials?
There are no specific examples in our evidence.
All right. And then why do you need to implement licensing requirements?
Because we have shown that the need for something like this. Just because our evidence doesn't provide a specific example in the past that shows that it does need this, it doesn't mean it should happen.
All right. And you say that AI is diverting readers and the advertising dollars that follow them. Is the audience who is using chatbots the same people who are reading or watching the news?
Yes.
That's okay.